The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madej, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Welcome to the Forever Fab podcast. It's the podcast dedicated to fashion, the art of living well, and all things beauty. I'm your host, Dr. Shirley Madej, your purveyor of this definitive source of living a beautiful life. This week's episode is dedicated to perseverance. It is called A Journey of Dreams, How to Design Your Life in Fashion. And this is my interview with Victor Glemaud. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you, Dr. Shirley. I'm thrilled.
Thank you so much for giving me your time in this new year. And what an illustrious career you have had, and you are still currently enjoying. I'm very happy for you. You were born in Haiti, as I was,
Yes.
and raised in New York City, as I was.
Yes.
And you have an impressively focused trajectory in fashion, and we're going to talk all about that. But first, a few bullet points.
Ooh.
So, Victor Glemaud was a finalist in the 2017 CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund. He began his career as a design assistant for Patrick Robinson, right?
Yes.
While studying, a long time ago, while studying at FIT, or the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, for those of you who don't know what FIT is. He then worked briefly as a publicist at a well-known PR firm, and I'm sure you learned a lot there. And after that stint, you soon realized that you were more passionate about becoming a maker and a creator. So you returned to designing in 2005, first as the women's wear design advisor and later as the studio director, both at Paco Rabanne,
Yes,
who
in
happens
Paris.
to be in Paris, of course. Bien sûr. Subsequently, you became the style director at Tommy Hilfiger
Yes.
in America.
Back in New York.
Back in Nueva York. And so you launched your eponymous brand in 2006, first as a menswear line, but then after 5 years, you reassessed your plans and continued to hone your craft as a freelance designer, and you went back to Europe.
Correct.
Okay. In 2016, you reintroduced yourself as a women's wear designer, and you're particularly talented, if I may say so myself, at creating knitwear that is designed democratically. Meaning for all people, all genders, all races, all sizes, of all personalities. And I think that's beautifully inclusive.
Thank you.
Your designs have been worn by a long list of celebrities and influencers and even plastic surgeons like me.
The ultimate influencer.
Okay. And you've been raved about in a wide variety of press, including Vogue, the New York Times, WWD, Allure, New York Magazine, V, and most recently, Fashionista.com. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's a great article. I had fun doing that.
Okay, good. I'm glad you did. I read it. It was very complimentary, as it should
you.
be. So, you are from Haiti, question number one.
Yes.
Describe your journey from there to here in the now, and where you're a fabulous New York City designer. How did that I mean, did you envision it? How did this happen? I know it was a long road, but how did you manifest this?
The little kid who was born in Haiti who now is a New Yorker and doesn't know how to drive. Classic
No.
New York story.
Really?
I don't know how to drive.
Okay. It's okay. It's because you had a driver.
Except to get here because I was late. I'm sorry again.
No worries at all.
No, I was born in Haiti, and
Yes.
we moved to New York when I was 3.
Okay.
And I went back to Haiti, when I was younger, and
Yes.
in elementary school and high school. And I grew up in a Haitian family in New York, in Queens.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the best of both worlds. You know, I have my New York sensibility and I have my Haitian sensibility. When I have, you know, lunch or my mother comes over for dinner with my husband and I, like, she's like, do you want Haitian food? And we're both like, yes. You know, and that's sort of the world that I live in. Like, my friends know my family know my friends. My friends love, like, my auntie's hot sauce that she makes. And I have always celebrated where I am and where I'm from. And it wasn't that cool at the beginning of my career. But now it is.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that everyone could sort of be where I've always been.
That's wonderful. It's your network, right? Your family, your friends are your family.
Yes.
It's a very, you know,
exactly. And that's how
Haitian
we
value.
met.
Yes, that's right.
And I think, you know, through the diaspora and people who share the same background and are now comfortable to share it openly with the world, it's great.
Yes, you have a supportive tribe.
Same.
And
just
I
like
include
you.
myself a member of that.
You definitely are.
Now, what is it about fashion that attracted you to it as a career?
Well, it was a career that my parents and my family did not understand.
Yes.
But through my older sister, who like loves fashion and still does.
Is that Miss Fabienne?
Yes. The one and only.
She is fabulous. Shout out to Fabienne.
Fabienne Glemaud. And her subscription to Vogue and Elle and W. And that was really my introduction to fashion as a potential career.
Yeah.
But my father specifically was very, you know, well-dressed and very stylish and really sort of rigorous about how we dressed and the way we looked. And so that sort of instilled sort of like certain restrictions and codes in dressing. And then the fashion magazines.
Certain standards.
Yeah. They just allowed me to just sort of dream. And that dream started there. But I didn't know how to work in fashion. I didn't know it was a potential career.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, I was like, I liked cooking and I still cook.
Yes.
And I liked fashion. And I knew I can go to school in New York, and I really wanted to leave New York and potentially learn how to drive and all these other things. Forget it. I tried leaving New York. I went to school in Providence for a year. I hated it. I hated driving. I hated the whole thing. I came back to New York.
Okay.
Done.
Now you don't have to drive. You don't have to drive in New York. Voila.
And I quickly went back to FIT, or quickly transferred to FIT. And once I stepped into that class, and my first class was this like textiles class.
Yes.
And I made my really good friend in that class, my only good friend from college, in that class.
Yes.
I was like, this is where I belong.
You felt it.
Like instantaneously.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was like some brides, you know, when they see the dress, they know it's the dress.
Yes.
So when you walked into that class and you took the class, you were like, that's it. It was a feeling. It was a knowing.
Yes. I was like, this is where I belong. These are people who understand what I am trying to achieve. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what my journey would be. I still don't know what my journey is going to be.
Yes.
And I've never looked back.
Good for you. Now, I have to say, you mentioned that it was your sister looking at the Vogue magazines and the fashion magazines where you started to dream in those images. You know, we have to give a lot of credit to the magazines, because I know a lot of them are going out of business these days and everything is turning digital, but there's something about holding the page and flipping through the pages and holding the magazine and just seeing them and allowing somebody to visualize something that they could actually feel. There's something to be said for that.
Oh, it absolutely is. And, you know, in the 90s, you know, the 90s, the 80s, there wasn't this instantaneous, like I had to wait for those magazines to arrive
you had to wait
every month.
Yeah.
You know, I had to wake up early on Saturday to like watch CNN with like Elsa Clinch. Like it was like, remember that?
Elsa Clinch.
You know, it was like a very specific thing that
when she reviewed all the shows.
Exactly. And you had to seek it out.
That's right.
And even now, you know, there's so much things at your fingertips on your phone, but you still have to seek out the complete story.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true. So what do you like about being a boss? I mean, in your career, I don't know about at home.
We should start with what I don't like.
Okay, sure. What don't you like about being a boss? That's honest.
Managing people and people's time and, you know, this and that and all of that. That's, you know, and payroll and cash flow and all of those fun things that no one prepares you for when you go to fashion school.
Or medical school, for that matter. I commiserate.
The reality of business.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I I'm really lucky in my career where I've worked for a lot of people, or I've freelanced for a lot of people, or I've worked in an agency where I got to see people's businesses from their design studios to the way they do, the marketing, to the way they do all of this stuff.
Yes.
And from all of that collective history of work,
Yes.
I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. Like I freelanced for Naeem Khan, and he was always having lunch with the team and this and that. And I love that. I freelanced for Tori, and I like her live-work balance, and she raised her kids
Children, right.
and built this great business.
Yeah.
Patrick Robinson, who I've worked for twice and is one of my best friends and my mentor still to this day, he has a great sort of creative and business mind. And I can see from all of these varied people who have different businesses, whether from what they design or the size. And I can say, okay, I really like that. I think
You can
this
pick and choose
works,
what works for you.
and I can sort of adapt it that way. And, I have built this business quite steadily in the last 4 years
Yes,
now.
you have, yeah.
Really conscientiously and trying to be profitable and build it into something that can grow and withstand the
right.
time.
Yeah.
And, in fashion, like it's a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Oh my gosh.
It takes a lot of time.
Yes, it does. But we don't realize that because there's so much fast fashion.
Yes. And it's glamorous, and there's celebrities, and it's this,
Right.
and but it's work.
It's
like everything.
Of course. And there's so much more to it than what we just see.
Oh yeah. But you don't want to see it. It's
We might pull back the curtain a little bit later in this interview.
close it quickly.
Close it quickly, right? Why do you feel it's important to design democratically, meaning for all people? And in doing so, are you expressing your social views through your artistry, or did you find that there was a void in the market that you wanted to fill?
For me, I think to be a designer for today in 2020, I was just like, I want to appeal to a large range of people. I have women in, like conservative women in the Midwest wearing my clothes. I have people on the train in New York City wearing my clothes. There are business women in Hong Kong who wear my clothes.
Wonderful.
And that's my dream. Yeah. And I hope to dress more people. And it's not about you look or you have the same views as me politically or ideologically or race or sex or this or that. It's about, for me, it's really about dressing all people. And it's not just people who are a size 2. It's not just people who, have large bank accounts. So my strategy to build this business was really to focus in on the price and the quality and the design.
Yeah.
Because,
and you do all of it well.
Oh, I hope so.
Yes, you do. Testament. Fan.
You
I'm a fan.
cannot see what Shirley's wearing today, but she looks divine in blue. Victor Glemaud.
It is, of course. So because of that, you want to dress all people and want your clothes, your creations to be accessible to all people. Do you think in general that everyone should have access to fashion? Because not everyone does, right? There's fast fashion, then there's couture.
Yeah, exactly. I do. I don't think my industry does. I think some people, I should say, want things to be like they were, where it was really, you controlled who got it, how they got it, and where they got it.
Right.
But that doesn't exist anymore. If I go to a store and see something and then go home and buy it online, it's still a sale.
That's right.
If I see it online and then go to a store and try it on and buy it there, it's the same thing.
Right.
And I just think people are now deciding when and how they shop.
Right.
And I think that's great.
Power to the people.
Exactly. Like, why not?
Why not? I mean, after all, I like to decide what I'm wearing.
And you do it quite well.
Thank you. I do particularly think that today my outfit is impeccable. You have a lot of experience in business, as you mentioned, the business of fashion. What would you say is the most impactful thing that your experiences and all your freelancing taught you about fashion as a business and about having a brand?
All of my varied experiences taught me 2 things: patience which I still have to remind myself of every single day.
Yeah.
So maybe
that's a human condition, impatience.
It's teaching me.
Yes.
And also tenacity, which really got my foot into the door at the very
that.
beginning of my career.
I love that.
And, I have seen people who are at their peak in terms of image and they're super famous and but their business sucks. Or people who have a great business and, it's selling, but no one knows who they are. So it's
Interesting.
It's something in this like secret sauce,
Yes.
which no one knows how to create it, that you can sort of have both of those things at the same time.
Right.
But not a lot of people have that in fashion.
Right.
And
do you think that secret sauce is something that's taught, or something learned, or something that you just kind of feel out once you're out here?
I think it's about really persevering and like sticking to it. If you look at someone like a Michael Kors, who is a global brand,
Absolutely.
all over, wherever I travel, like you see a Michael
Everywhere.
Kors bag.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
His business, he's been around for a very long, since like the early 80s.
Wow.
And I just realized that it's been the early 80s.
Yeah.
And I think I know a lot about fashion, but I
Right.
didn't realize how early Michael Kors had been around.
Definitely.
And his business has been up, and he's worked for other people, and he's done this, and he's done that. And that's about tenacity, and that's about patience.
And perseverance, yeah.
And perseverance, because that's how you rise up when you get knocked down. And that's
right.
what it takes.
I agree. Did I say that this podcast was dedicated to perseverance? I sure did.
Yes,
and I didn't
you
even know we were going to
did.
talk about, there we go, prophetic prophecy here on the Forever Fab podcast. So you clearly represent diversity in fashion as a designer.
I hope so.
Yes, you do. But what about inclusivity? I know the fashion industry has embraced diversity, because they talk about They talk about it on the runways.
There's a lot of talk.
Yeah, talk about it in terms of the designers, but what of inclusivity? Because I think they're two different things. You could have diversity, right? And you could be, you could eat from the table, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are allowed to sit at the table and have the conversations that make things happen.
Correct.
So what about inclusivity?
For me, and I talked to my friend Beth Ann Hardison about this. I talked to Iman about this. And, in my mind, they got this conversation started about the model and the image. And that has grown into what we see today, which is remarkable. And Beth Ann has this thing going on with the CFDA that I'm sure she wouldn't mind if I talk about.
Yes, I'd love to have her on the podcast to talk about
I'll
it.
introduce you to.
Please
That'll
do.
be major.
I'd love to hear
She's
about
the
that
best.
initiative. I did read about it.
She's the best. And what she's doing is bringing the Black creatives together, because she was tired of people being like, well, where's the Black designer? Where's the Black designer? Where's the Black designer?
Right.
And so she's like, bring us together. And there's all of these kids and people who are so talented that I'd never met before, that I was unaware of, because they're doing what they're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, and our worlds don't collide.
Right.
And
even though you're in the same industry.
Yes, and she's bringing us together.
That's amazing.
I said to Beth Ann when this was all starting, I was like, you think of like the Asian designers, you think of like historically like the Jewish designers in fashion. Like there's a network and there's
an association,
and a sisterhood and a brotherhood where there's support and this and that. And I was like, as people of color, we don't do that and we don't have that.
Right.
And so that started there. And my other thing with it was, where is it in like the C-suites, like the people who are making the decisions? Like that's where it actually continues to matter more so than ever. And things are starting to open up. There's a little fissure and a crack in the door, but it's not a lot.
Right.
And we're just thinking about America, and fashion is global, and you think about Europe, and you think about Asia, and you think about Africa, and you think about all of these things, and you're like, how do I deal with this?
Yes.
But you have to start somewhere.
One day at a time.
And I think it's by having conversations like this, it's by, doing these podcasts where people can hear and share and try to understand other experiences.
And hear what's behind the curtain.
Yes. And then once you hear or see someone who looks and represents your background and what you've done, or and has a similar dream to what you are trying to navigate, then you can try.
Yeah, it has ripple effects.
Yeah.
And then that also opens an opportunity for you as a designer, not only to continue to create your work, but also to mentor, as well as to be a mentee.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's really, really important to be able to connect and to see yourself so you can try.
Of course, because in the end, yes, the fashion is great, the clothes are beautiful, but in the end, it's really all about people and relationships, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. I'm sure in your field, you're a doctor, and for other young women to see you, it's so inspiring.
Yeah, I don't know if there are many of me in plastic surgery.
Not yet.
No, not yet. Soon come, I hope. So you get a lot of inspiration from Haiti, as I do.
Yes.
Now, how does the motherland manifest its beauty in your designs?
It's always there. It's I think a lot of people focus on the color and the mix of color. But, there's sort of an ease to what I do.
It's like a continuous thread for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
feel it.
And I try not to make it be too convoluted and hard to explain.
Right.
You just want to put it on or slip it off.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like, if a sweater, if it arrives at home or you pick it up in a store, you should be able to put it on with what you're wearing that day.
Exactly.
And to me, that reminds me of being at home.
Yeah, it's the ease and versatility and comfort.
It's all about comfort.
It's like comfort food for your body. I love it.
Except for ours.
Except for ours. That's right. Now, do you return to Haiti sometimes, and most recently?
Yeah, I was there a couple of, I was going to say last year, but it wasn't. It was the year before, twice for a wedding.
Okay.
And I did this trip with this foundation, and it was covered by Vogue, and it was great.
I read that article.
I want to go back more.
Okay.
Like there's this like group vacation that I'm trying to plan with my mother and her twin sister, and they keep ignoring me.
I'm sure they'll listen. Now, I know you have some very exciting global events on the horizon, and I won't ask you to be too specific, but would you ever show in Haiti?
Absolutely.
That would be epic, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I've actually spoken with the former ambassador about that.
Yes.
And I've spoken with someone who is at the U.S. Embassy or consulate, whatever it's called.
Yes.
There about that, and we've tried to navigate that many different ways, and it's a dream of mine.
Okay, I think it will happen. Perhaps not now. A little bit of unrest now, from what I understand.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But you know what? The people of Haiti, when they're upset and pissed off about something, I respect them that they take to the streets.
Yep.
They go out there, they're like, no, we're not standing for this. Now, unfortunately, that happens often, but at least they're out there speaking their truth, right?
Well, and you look at the flip side in America where everyone's so upset and everyone's just sitting at home,
we're numb.
Texting about it.
Yeah, we're texting about it. Nobody's taking up any.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So New York, do you think you need special grit or talent to make it here? I know there's a song.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? I think so too.
Oh my God, yes.
Like you have to be so hungry and so, as you mentioned, patient but steady and steadfast and keep going and thick skin and pretty skin on beautiful skin on top of it. It's of course flawless, but so thick.
You're supposed to be flawless and dewy, but still
but still
thick
fierce,
underneath.
thick on the inside. Like, flawless, dewy, but don't mess with me, right? I think there's something about New York there. If you decide that you're going to make it here, there's a little extra.
Yeah.
That you have to put in.
I always say, to people who want to intern or work with me or whatever, and a lot of the kids can't take it and they go back home. Literally, I just had this young woman who's working with me. She's now in Georgia or wherever, Savannah or something.
Someplace more peaceful.
Exactly. And that's it. I was like, you don't live in New York because, the quality of life, we have noise pollution, we have air pollution, it's fucking expensive. Yes. Sorry, I curse, guys.
No, it's true. It's truth.
And you live here because of work.
Yeah.
And you're trying to build something, you're trying to sustain something, and you're trying to express something.
Right.
That's why people move to New York. Yeah. Whether they are immigrants or they are Americans
or dreamers
or whatever it is.
That's right.
you don't meet that many native New Yorkers.
That's true.
You don't.
Yeah.
I consider myself one since
Yes.
3,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to drive, but that really qualifies. But there's a reason why, because you come here to make it, and then you're like, peace out.
Deuces.
You know?
Yeah.
Or you couldn't sustain it, and you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I tried it.
Yeah.
And
it was cute, but not for me.
it's cute. There's a lot of, there's a lot of people who try and they're like, no.
Yeah. And, that's a decision to be respected. But I agree with you. There's a little extra that's required here for you to make it.
Oh, yeah.
So when you took the time to reassess your business, then relaunch it
Yes.
5 years later,
Yes.
what did you learn to make you relaunch? Meaning, what clarity did you receive that made you say, okay, no, I'm going to do it differently next time?
I call that like my eat, pray, love moment. Because I was working at Tommy and I had my menswear business, and I was just like, I can't do either of these. So I quit Tommy, I closed the business, and then I went to India, I went to Cambodia, I went
Wow.
to Vietnam.
Wow.
And I cried and I purged and I had
and you
this.
prayed with the Buddhist
Oh,
monks.
I did it all.
Yeah.
I was, I was like touching the roots in Angkor Wat.
Yes.
I was like,
you and I had a similar time. You probably did this around the same time. Wasn't that an amazing trip?
tears.
Yes.
Tears.
Catharsis.
It was so energetically releasing. It
Cleansing
was,
and clearing.
It was magnificent.
Yeah.
I read 600-page books
Yeah.
and this and that. It was great.
Good for you.
And it was just this moment of just how do I do this and how do I do it differently? And it took me a little longer than I thought.
That's okay.
It was perfect,
Yes.
the perfect amount of time.
Everything in divine precision.
And I got to a place where I was like, I'm going to try something that makes me uncomfortable. And it was about, me checking my ego, me not doing things that other people expect, that other people have done, that other people would probably do.
Yeah.
And I don't use, I'm not in tech, so that disruptive word that everyone throws around, it wasn't disruptive. It was just different for me.
Right.
Yeah. And I started it with what I did and liked the best
Yeah.
and what I also sold the best, which was the sweaters.
Yeah. The slash sweater.
The little slash double cardigan.
Yeah.
And so I took that and then I was just like, there's the idea.
Right.
There's the category that I'm going to focus on, but how do I do it differently? And then I had this idea for these slash sweaters, and it took me almost a year and a half to find a factory that wanted to produce it, that was able to produce it
The way you wanted it.
the way I wanted it at the price I wanted it. And to find the yarn that I really liked. And
Yes.
it's still the yarn that I work with till today.
Yeah.
So that sort of year and a half of development was taxing and really hard because I was like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I met a man who became my husband during that period. I was like, how is all of this going to work?
Right.
But if I hadn't gone through that period of okay, how am I going to do this differently? How do I avoid the mistakes that I made previously and learn from those, acknowledge them and learn from them and try not to repeat them? Because mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so happy you talked about your having gotten away to cleanse, to clear your mind, and to just get perspective.
Yes.
Which leads to my next question, because it sounds as if you knew you needed to get away and you had a vision, but you didn't necessarily have a strategy, meaning
Correct.
you didn't know how you were going to get there.
Correct.
So my next question is, how important is strategy? Based on your experience, it's not all that important because it is possible to have the ambition and have the vision, but not necessarily know how you're going to get there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you had a point. You didn't have a point-by-point strategy, but you knew that you had to get away and reassess and think about things differently.
Yes. I knew where I was. It wasn't the right path.
Okay.
So that's why I was just like, let's put a pin in this for now.
And it wasn't the right path because you weren't happy or because you weren't profitable?
The business wasn't growing. The business was sort of the same. It just felt sort of flat to me.
Understood. Okay.
And personally, I was just exhausted. I was, working a full-time job to fund my business, which was also a full-time job.
Yes.
And it was just like, this isn't working. None of this is working for me as a person, for me creatively, for me financially, for me professionally.
Okay.
So I'm just like, let's put that on pause for now.
Yeah.
And I sort of like hinted this before. I thought I would figure it out a little bit quicker than 5 years. But I had the idea, but I didn't know how to execute it.
Got it.
And even with, my varied network and this and that, I still didn't feel like I was personally in the right place.
Yes.
Financially in the right place also to make another misstep.
Yes.
Because when one thing closes, whether it's a business, a relationship, like you have to mourn that.
Yeah.
And it took me some time to mourn. It took me longer than I expected to mourn that.
Because it was your baby. You
Absolutely.
put everything into it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't see it as a failure at all.
Right.
It just wasn't working.
Right. It was a pivot point.
Exactly. And that got me to where we are today. Yeah. But that process of sort of building a strategy and building a business strategy, it took me a while because I didn't have any examples to follow. I didn't have anyone else who was just focusing on knitwear. There's really sort of like plain sweaters around.
Right.
But not what I was doing, where it's actually fashion.
Yes.
And just, it's a designer product, but just in a single category, which is knitwear.
Right.
And so it took me a long time for people to understand it. People in our industry to understand it. Press people, buyers, stores, customers.
I just do knits.
Yeah, and I still have to explain to people. It's like, well, I really like that, but how do I wear it in the summer? I'm like, you just wear it.
Yeah.
It's a cotton sweater.
Yeah.
So there is this education of it.
Which is crazy. In an industry where there are no rules, yet there are rules.
There's a lot of guardrails, Dr. Shirley. A lot. But it's perception.
Yes.
And it's again, it has to do with people not understanding it because it hasn't sort of been done before. And I'm not that boastful, and I'm not, banging on people's head. Like, I'm like, you either get it or you don't.
Right.
If you don't get it, leave me alone.
I got you. I kind of feel the same way about how I brand my practice, which is, plastic surgery. And I'm very traditionally trained, but I consider myself to practice holistically.
Correct.
So for me, inside matters as much as outside. I can do anything for you on the outside, but it really ought to be complemented on the inside. Oh my gosh. Once I first started saying and branding my practice as holistic plastic surgery, I got so many questions of, well, what's so holistic about it? Like, do you put special tinctures on your scalpel?
Exactly.
Or do you put herbs on your needles?
Yes.
And it's just like, oh my gosh.
There's
a re-education.
There needs to be like one thing where you can just answer that. So then you're like, oh, that's holistic.
Right.
But it's more than that.
It's more than that. Exactly.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you. Holistic knitwear. So you did experience some obstacles along the way.
Of course. Still do.
Yeah, but how do you resolve those on a month-to-month or day-to-day basis? When something comes up, what is your go-to, exhalation?
I like that question.
Thank you.
My go-to is to not freak out, to shut the computer, put the phone down, don't respond too quickly.
Right. We've had some accidents that way, right? Whoopsie.
Step away from it.
Right, step away from the computer. Sir.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, put your hands up.
Yes, literally.
Literally.
But it's to really just take a deep breath and step away from it.
Yeah.
And it's not as bad as I think when I look back on the little flare-ups, and that's what I'm going to call them.
Yeah.
You can navigate them and you can deal with them. And, I feel like sometimes I've made them into bigger deals than they have been because I was unable to put the phone down or unable to close the computer and step away from it.
Fuel to the fire.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Something.
I'm an Aquarian.
Spice.
I'm an Aquarian. We have to keep you on your toes.
Right. Forget the water part. You did not put water on that fire. You put more spice and flavor in heat. I love it. I love your fire. It's perfect.
But the thing is that you have to remember what the end result is and what the goal is.
Yes.
And
keep your eyes on the prize.
Keep your eyes on the prize and focus on the ultimate action that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, like right now I'm planning my next fashion show that
Yes.
Dr. Shirley hopefully will be
I will
at.
be there. February 6th, right? 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah. And there's, this person's confirmed, then that's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
I'm like, wait, but that was confirmed,
Yes.
and we're just like figuring out the location, the date,
Yes.
once we start dealing with models and
Right.
hair and makeup and all of these things.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the beast.
That's right.
And I've learned, through my couple of years in fashion,
Yes, more than that. Way more than that.
that it's just the process.
It's the process.
This is the process. After that we go into market and we start selling it, and then it's there's a rhythm to it that I sort of know now.
Yeah.
But even with understanding and knowing the rhythm,
Yeah.
there are still things that trigger and that upset and
Of
that
course.
disappoint.
Of course.
But I have to believe in myself
Yeah.
and understand that what I'm doing, I have to like it and believe in it.
Yep.
And I'm lucky that I have a great support system in my family and my friends that we just talk about a lot of other things that have nothing to do with work.
Yep.
And that's sort of how I get through it.
I love the takeaways from what you just said. So number 1, believe in yourself.
Yes.
Number 2, do have a support system.
It's invaluable.
Invaluable. And number 3, as I think it was Marie Forleo who has like an online B-school type of thing. She says everything is figure-outable. And that's what you just...
love that.
Right? Everything
I
is
love that.
figure-outable.
Yeah.
And if you think about it and step away from the computer and take the time, then you will figure it out. So a couple of little fun questions.
Ooh.
Do you have any special or favorite celebrity stories?
I have a lot.
One favorite.
This was a hard one for me because I was like, oh, I want to keep it private and this
Right.
and that. But,
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I used to work, I used to do PR and I worked at, and my main account was Versace. And I did
Okay.
Versace for a while. And I love Versace and I love
Yeah.
Donatella. Whenever
She's iconic.
she's so nice.
She's
so
iconic.
funny.
Yeah.
Whenever I see her, the security is like, come and say hello to La Signora. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, my lesson.
I'm like, hi,
I love
Donatella.
that.
She's like, how come you didn't come and say hi to me, Victor? I was like, because you were busy.
Yeah. She seems like good people.
She's the best. And I love the whole team there. There's
Yeah.
a lot new people since I worked there or when I worked for them.
Well, apparently she sold the
Yes,
company, right?
yeah.
But she's still,
She's still
La
Donatella
Signora-
Versace.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'll never forget, years ago, I was walking to the office, atelier, whatever,
Yes.
on Via Gesù in Milan.
Yes.
And I see this like big guy, and I see, like a couple of other people. And I get closer and I see Ty Hunter, the stylist. I see Tina Knowles
Uh-oh.
and Beyonce and
Yeah.
other members.
Yes.
And
And the sort.
yes, and like that big
That
security
big
guy.
guy, yeah.
And Beyonce's like, "Hi, Victor," and I was like, and I still sort of like remember that.
Whoa.
And I was like,
I want
oh.
a Beyonce moment like
I was
that.
like,
Hi,
oh.
Dr. Shirley. Hi,
I was
Miss
like,
B.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, and now a couple of years later,
Yes.
and the force that and the impact of her and her artistry is so amazing. So yeah, that is a really fun.
That is really fun. And may the force continue to be with you.
I don't know if that's going to happen today, but yeah,
Maybe
that's
tomorrow.
That
Maybe
happens.
she's busy today. So would you say at that moment on Via Gesù, when you got the "Hi, Victor" from Queen Bee, would you say that is a moment when you realize that you've made it?
No, I haven't made it yet.
Oh.
No, I haven't made
Not
it yet.
yet.
No,
Soon come.
no. My ambition won't allow me to feel that way. Like I've got a lot more to do.
Okay. I like that. And what is on your wish list? What yet do you have to do?
Oh my goodness, how long do you have?
Give me your top 2.
I want to design for a house in Europe. I want to sell globally.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I want to have a kid. There's a lot of things I want to do.
So let's talk about the kid. Not that your husband is a kid, but I was about to say that leads to that ultimately. You are married, yes?
Yes.
Congratulations.
It's a little over a year. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You've been married a year, and you're married to a professional man, right?
Yes.
So he's got a very serious day job.
Very.
How do you manage marriage to your partner and the marriage to your career?
It's not easy.
Right. Tell me about it. I mean, right?
It's not easy.
No kidding. Any advice?
Oh my God. Do you have any advice for me?
No.
You've been doing it longer than I have.
4 years.
You know what? I sort of mentioned this at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
we met when I was launching this.
Had a very busy time for you.
And I was just like, I don't know if this is going to work. I should do one or the... I was going to,
Yeah.
like, focus on the business
Yeah.
and, like, pick it up later with him.
Right.
But it just sort of, like, blossomed into this beautiful thing that we're in now.
Yeah.
And he's really supportive of
Yeah.
what I do. I'm supportive of what he does.
Which is amazing.
We find time to do our thing and then be together. And there are times, you know, like going into like Fashion Week where I'm just like, listen, like,
Yeah, I can't talk to you right now.
there's like
Yeah.
no dinners and
Yeah.
this and that. And he's like, he gets it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't come from this world. And and everyone loves him.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just so sincere and thoughtful and supportive. And he really likes my friends, and my friends really
awesome.
like him. And,
That's awesome.
You know, he really likes my family, and
Yeah.
my family really likes him. So
It works.
It's great.
Yeah.
You know, and I like his family, and
Right.
he's, you know, he's from Luxembourg, like
Yeah.
this little tiny place in Europe, and we all get along quite well.
That's wonderful.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Congratulations.
thank
So
you.
it sounds as if you both do your own thing and you both have mutual respect for what you do,
Yes.
but you make the time and find the time to A, communicate.
Yes.
And then B, to be together when you
Yeah,
can.
absolutely.
And to really be together,
Yes.
present with each other.
Absolutely. Like without phones
Yeah.
and all of that.
Wonderful.
And it's quite nice. Like
Yeah.
since we've been together, like at night,
Yeah.
I shut down my phone, you know, like I don't look at it.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it before I go to sleep.
Right.
And I'm an early riser, so I wake up and I'm like, boom, you know?
Yeah.
But it's good to have your time.
Yeah. Well, good thing you're not married to a plastic surgeon because I can't turn my phone off.
Oh my God, that's true.
Yeah. I love that, though.
Even at night?
Oh, yeah, even at night. And especially when I'm on call, forget it. Yeah. But I have this thing about, you know, the phones and the radiation, so it's like a conflict for me. Like, I don't keep the
Where do
phone
you keep the phone?
Like, away in the corner of another room in this, like, special case and stuff. Well, I love my brain, you know. I don't
So
want
you're just hearing
I'm
a ding.
Ding, ding somewhere, yeah. Anyway, well, it sounds like a beautiful relationship.
Thank you.
I hope
thank
to
you,
meet him
thank
one day.
you. You haven't met him?
No, I haven't. Maybe at the show.
Definitely.
I'll meet him. Okay,
Yes.
I'll seek him out.
Yes.
I'll be like, I know things about you. Good things. So last few questions. This one is called the Fast Five.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to name 2 sets of things, you know, and you just have to tell me exactly what's on your mind. Don't even think about it.
Okay.
And there are just 5 of these sets, okay? So this is the Fast Five. Solids or prints?
Solids.
Casual or formal?
Formal.
I'm surprised by that. Creator or collaborator?
Creator.
Travel or staycation?
Travel.
Oh, I knew that one. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Wow, that was fast. I love it.
I don't hike.
You know what? I've been hiking over the past few years. That
Why?
is serious. The first time I hiked in Bhutan. Have you been to Bhutan
No, I
yet?
have not.
It's a must. It's a must for you, especially after
Well,
you describe Southeast Asia.
It sounds like a lot of
experience.
hiking.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah.
So I'm not going. It's off the list.
I don't know. So that was the first time I hiked. I think I left a lung on that mountain. But it was so surreal and beautiful how I fell.
Yeah.
Because I was hiking and then there were just, it must have been 30 or 40 monks literally just, you know, climbing up this steep hill.
What were they wearing?
Their robes and sandals.
Fabulous.
Meanwhile, I have on my shorts, I've got on my knapsack, I have on my hiking boots, very expensive, fabulous hiking boots. Didn't serve me at all because I was so distracted by this beautiful procession of monks in these gorgeous, burgundy, Bordeaux colored robes that I got so distracted I must have slipped on a rock and I fell and scraped my shin and it was bleeding like crazy.
Were you alone?
No, I had a friend of mine with me, and she freaked out. I'm the doctor, of course.
Yes.
She's like, And I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. I'm bleeding profusely from my leg, but I'm still looking at these monks, and they're just passing me by like, hey, peace be with you, sister, you're bleeding. And thankfully, there was, a faucet nearby, and I go to rinse my leg, and my friend is like, that could be contaminated water. Anyway, well, needless to say.
You're like, I'm the doctor here.
Yeah, I can handle it. So that was my first hike, and it was surreally beautiful, even though I nearly busted my butt.
And I'm assuming that was your last hike?
No, it wasn't. I kind of like it now. There's something about my personality that likes to suffer a little bit, I guess. Anyway, so the next question is the Fab Five. What are your top 5 recommendations for living a fashionable and beautiful life? I'm going to write these down.
My number one is water.
Drink a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. We're drinking it right now.
Yes, we are, aren't we? Both tea and regular water. Yes, we are.
Laughter.
Yes, we did that a lot during this podcast.
Thank goodness.
I love it.
Thank goodness.
Thank you for that. It's important. It's medicine.
Thank you, Dr. Shirley.
Thank you, Victor.
A pair of good shoes.
Ah.
And I mean a pair of good shoes.
Good dress shoes or good walking shoes, or it doesn't matter?
Let's look at our shoes.
Well, I've got on really comfortable boots.
It's a good boot.
That's a good boot.
I've got on a hiking boot.
And you have on a hiking
boot.
boot.
But I don't hike.
But you don't hike. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at a pair of really good shoes. Okay, what's your number 4?
Joy.
Yes, that is your forever fab.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and number 5?
The family you choose or the family you're born into.
Okay. Is there a difference?
Yes.
How so?
Our friends could be our family.
That's true.
That's true. Our lovers could be our family.
Yes.
It's there's so many things, and your chosen family
invite in?
is exactly that's your family.
I like that.
And they're just as important as your blood family.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't like your blood family. It pisses you off.
That's true. On more than one occasion.
And you're like, oh my God, I'm stuck with this one. or they're stuck with you.
True. But they say that, people in the spiritual world say that the family that you are born into, you actually did choose. You just weren't aware that you chose them. And you chose them because they're here to teach you something in life, whether it's your mission, your purpose, a lesson, whatever. So that's still
I started to realize that in my 30s when I was like, oh, I really love my family.
Yeah.
And, I'm not that easy.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for my family. They
Same.
are seriously my tribe.
Same.
Victor, this has been amazing.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we can keep going.
I know, right? We can keep going for hours, but I know you're a busy, very busy man. Shows to plan globally all over the world. I wanted to thank you for your time, your energy, your positivity, your creativity, your perspective, your hopefulness, and your joy on this podcast today. Thank you. I hope you'll be back again.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Let's schedule it.
Okay.
I can't wait.
Done. You've been listening to my interview with Victor Glemaud on A Journey of Dreams, How to Design Your Life in Fashion. Please, you may purchase Victor Glemaud's creations and designs at Saks Fifth Avenue, Moda Operandi, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Shopbop, and other places. So please support this incredible artist. And I thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Forever Fab podcast. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay fashionable, and stay fabulous inside and out. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Dr. Shirley.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madea, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.